Hello, I'm Anshu Sharma. Welcome and my love to you. We are discussing dealing with the issues of loyalty, trust and betrayal. This is part 2 of this two-part series. In part 1, we discussed how deep these issues can be and how much emotional pain and sufferings such issues may inflict on us. We also discussed our usual reactions and the reactions which are coming from our ego, and we also discussed about the final realization of taking self-responsibility. Let us continue our discussion on making choices with the power of courage and determination. Our journey to ascension requires us to make choices. Some of these choices may be easy to take, while others may really test our resolve. Making choices against our biological families, social circles, religious or friendly tribes are always challenging. We need power of discernment in making the choices that align with our principles and values. This requires our active participation in reflecting and discovering what our principles and values are. What personal principles and values we personally own. And these personal principles and values may differ from our tribe. When we start acting out of our personal principles and values differing from others, we may face resistance. We face this resistance and try to overcome it in whatever manner we choose to be appropriate and right at that time. We invite energies of tact, diplomacy, courage, support from others, and truth, or whatever else is required. We bring in those energies if the resistance is too severe. We take time in studying others' point of view and what reactions they might come up with, what stand they are taking, or what stand they might take, and that stand can either be in our favor or it can be against us. We remember personal values ultimately involve individual and collective freedom. If we are considering values only from the tribal or social angles, then our views can be limited, small and conditional. And we continue to live a suppressed and conditional reality. In rising above personal issues, we attempt to break limited boundaries of the mind and try to become unlimited, and this process comes in stages. Bringing peace and joy, reformation through emotional integration. We begin the process of reformation through emotional integration. We have experienced pains and sufferings, so we start to integrate and transform our emotions. We acknowledge and feel our emotions. Then we try to transform and transmute them. We employ various means such as writing, therapy, yoga, tai chi, healthy food, nutrition, music, walks, and also grounding. We do whatever we are being guided to do. The process of emotional integration balances our emotions, our mental states, and also our physical energies. Joy, happiness, and peace returns to our being. We put in the best of our capacity. We also recognize the universal principles and guidelines. Our reptilian brain still controls our tribal beliefs and behaviors. And this has to be kept in mind. In tribal consciousness, we take advantage of group consciousness. But our evolution requires us to take individual journey. This journey has to be taken by all, alone, in self, by the self. So tribes and our biological family is not going to take this journey for us. We have to take it alone. Our journey starts when we experience some sort of physical, mental, and emotional sufferings. This suffering gets exasperated by the fact there are no definite answers in the beginning when we start to take this journey. And when we are suffering in pain and under heavy emotions, there is also no immediate relief. We also realize that others are offering advice, but ultimately it is us who have to do something about our suffering. So when we see the situation like that we are up against our tribes or families and our values and principles are in conflict with them, and we experience pain and suffering which we realize that we have to transcend from, then seeker within us gets awakened. So we follow some universal guidelines that can be of help once the seeker within awakens. We try to remember or remind ourselves that eventually everyone has to start this journey and evolve. However hard and painful this journey may be, we need to accept and respect ourselves enough to take it. We need to also have faith and trust in our abilities. We have to make some choices, and these choices have to be made with responsibility. At times, our choices may not have desirable outcome, or we make them in haste. Making choices, whether right or wrong, is important and empowering. Only through making choices we develop our inner resolve and bring it outside, and this is the path of ascension. When we ascend, we also individualize. We come across polarity, meaning there will always be people with opposing views. This universal guideline we have to remember, that there will be always people opposing us. We also may face strong resistance from our very near and dear ones. The phase of battling our emotions and rising above them is essential for our evolution. This journey to higher dimensions is eventually to be taken by all at one point or another. We are not the only ones who are going through suffering and clearing our bodies. Currently, due to the rise in consciousness, millions of humans are experiencing identical symptoms. Many are facing dark night of their souls. Eventually, we will discard limited beliefs and embrace humanity. This guideline we have to remember. When we embrace humanity, then we rise above our conditioned tribes and groups. So not only we embrace our tribes and groups, but we ascend higher and now we embrace humanity. And we take delight in unity consciousness. This journey involves rising above tribal or group consciousness. Tribal and group consciousness involves unity with a shadow. And then we rise to individual consciousness. When we rise to individual consciousness, polarity has to come in. Eventually, polarities are merged and we come into unity consciousness when we embrace not only our tribes and families, but entire humanity. For rectifying and correcting, we start thinking and planning. We take physical steps in rectifying and correcting our mistakes. If we have given enough thought and we have discovered that we also made some mistakes. Maybe we reacted harshly. Maybe we used harsh words which we shouldn't have spoken. Whatever feels right to us at that point, we do. Any step we take with honesty and purity works. We keep the best intentions for us and also for the other party concerned. When we take active steps to be free from our pain and suffering, slowly we start releasing the burden of guilt and blame. We start feeling renewed. Joy and happiness starts to come to our body and mind. It is not a quick process, it is a slow process. When we take responsibility, emotional integration happens naturally and other powers also increase. Let us discuss some examples of taking actions with responsibility. For example, if she or he is controlling, we start taking self-control. Slowly, with courage. We become very careful in our speech and the information we give out or we leak out or convey. More responsible we become, more we come out from the clutches of external control. So control of the speech and the manner we convey information has to be cultivated in as response, not as reactions. Sometimes the words we speak reverberate in others' consciousness for a long time. And it takes minimum 6 months before they can, the original impression, their original impression about us is replaced with our new impression we are willing to create on others. Now, if someone is stealing, Then we start putting locks and start taking care of our valuables instead of shouting and continuously putting blame on others. If someone has broken our trust, then we start trusting ourselves and our higher self. If someone has betrayed us, we become alert and we become careful and not trust people blindly. Instead, we trust ourselves and listen to our inner voice. If someone in our life is irresponsible with our money or in any other way, then we start taking care of our finances. If someone does not love us, we love ourselves. If someone does not respect or validate us, then continuously we say to ourselves, I validate myself. I respect myself. We start taking care of our body, putting right food in our body, and we start exercising. We change our circle of friends and we choose right company. We choose right thinking. We start choosing right emotions and right attitude. In current times, so much information is available on positive thinking through internet. So we consciously choose the right information. We do not choose the company of the negative people. We choose wisdom. In the beginning, our progress may seem slow, but we will find ourselves on a different dimension. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it may take years, but we patiently follow and then we find happiness, joy, peace and health returns to us. Powers of truth, integrity, self-respect, honesty and purity. Through realization, when we take active steps required with right attitude, in time our mistakes get rectified. And we feel the release from lower emotions. We feel happy and joyful. Love returns into our life. It is not an empty journey. We also gain alertness. We are walking on the path of truth, and in that path we gain integrity, self-respect, honesty and purity. Our self-esteem and self-respect increases. So does our self-confidence. We learn to trust our inner voice and our higher self. We also become very careful and alert in spotting egoic pitfalls. In our upward journey, ego presents pitfalls. Ego will change its style and form. Attractions will be presented in the form of false gods. We become alert and careful. Our resolve and commitment will be tested. But we need to examine and relinquish our attachments, greed, anger and lust. Some of the egoic pitfalls are money and power attractions. Influences of powerful personalities, sex and relationships, greed and lust will be presented to us. But we have to be cautious and careful not to fall into the influence of powerful personalities if they go against our benefit. Same can be said about sex and relationships, greed and lust. We stay away from these personalities and remain true to ourselves in purity and honesty. We need to be aware of them. In Ascension, ego will always distract and take us sideways. So these are some of the egoic pitfalls we have to avoid. Besides focusing on the specialities and the qualities needed in order to rise our issues of betrayal, trust and loyalty. Now let's discuss some questions and answers which may pop up in your mind. How do we know if I am right and I am not the one who has made a mistake? We check at the time of the incident if we were honest and our intention was right. Though our speech may be incorrect, maybe if sometimes we are right, but we speak in a harsh and in an angry tone. So we see all of this. As long as our intention was not to hurt anyone in any manner, we came from an angle of for the benefit of the other party, the benefit for us and the benefit for all. We were right. If we acted with purity and honesty, our conscience will remain clear. We may still face misunderstanding, hurt and pain, but we do not suffer. We do not feel heavy. We do not take things personally because our conscience was clear or still is clear. Our love and compassion remain for the other person concerned. And we are able to hold on to the positive feelings. Our positive feelings, purity and honesty give us self-respect. And we also respect the other party. Sometimes we may understand their need to take time to process their emotions in a manner they choose. And we'll willingly allow them, lovingly allow them to take their own time. We let them have all the time they need for self-healing, self-searching. Sometimes the other party needs time for their own reflections, for their own evolution and growth. And sometimes that time requires them to be away from us. And if they choose not to have any contact with us, we simply honor their wishes with love. But we keep good wishes for them. And our purity should remain. Another question. How do we know if I made a mistake and not the other party? If we make mistakes, we encounter feelings of blame, judgment, guilt, anger, irritation, regret and repentance. So when we are feeling either a blame, judgment, irritation, regret and repentance, then definitely we made some mistakes, not entire mistakes, but some mistakes at few places. If we are suffering from these feelings, then somewhere we have not reached an understanding. Or we may be covering up our mistakes by putting blame and judgment on the other party. We are not able to forgive and forget either us or the other party and move on. So these feelings have to be recognized and sorted and dealt with. In such a situation, we check if we are doing any of the following, and if we are doing something along these lines, when we simply stop doing them. If we are judging the situation in our way, we are not being honest with ourselves. We are not willing to look within and face our past and our reactions. We are not leaving it on divine justice. Deep down, we know we have contributed towards some sort of misunderstanding, but we believe we are right. We wait for some sort of resolution or an apology from the other party. Deep down, we know that we also contributed towards making some mistakes. We have not taken time to process our emotions. We discover we are still holding on to the issue. And we are still remain in victim or perpetrator consciousness. In this consciousness, either sometimes we become victim, that other party has made us a victim, or we become perpetrator. When the situation comes, we use our egoic responses. We are unable to cut ties and move on. So another thing we look is, we wish the matter resolves in its own way, and we wish the peace returns to our system. So this is wishful thinking. That if we become quiet or we break ties, then the matter will resolve on its own. And the peace will eventually return to us. In deeper issues, it doesn't happen. Our active participation is very much required. Sometimes we regret the loss of the relationship. We remain attached to either the person or to our belief pattern. So this is where we make mistakes. That we are still attached to the person. Attachment has to be replaced with love. And we are still attached to our belief patterns. Where the world has changed, they have moved on, but we are attached to our belief patterns. Sometimes we feel we are scapegoated, used and discarded. These are not correct emotions to feel. If we feel like that, we have to resolve these emotions. Because somewhere, it's our mistake if we continue to feel like that. We are unable to deal with the thought, how can this happen to me? When I was the one who was right and I was being pure and honest. But deep down we know it is not true. We are able to forgive and move on. Sometimes we feel, okay, we have forgotten about it and we have forgiven and moved on. But if the issue still keeps coming to us from time to time, then definitely it needs our active participation and attention, and we are not truly able to forget it. So in these situations, maybe we reflect that somewhere, if not entirely, some mistakes we are also responsible. So another question comes. I am peaceful for most of the time, but at times the issue reappears. I have taken all of the above steps and have done emotional integration as well. And most of the time I am experiencing joy and love. But at times I still feel sad for the relationship lost. The issue involved my parents, siblings, my children, or very close relatives. I am unable to forgive, but I am able to forgive them, but I am not able to forget still. What should I do? So you have done a lot of work. Congratulations. You have recognized, you have been aware of your issues, you have done some analysis, you have done some gratification, you have rectified and reformed your mistakes, you have tried to integrate your emotions, but with sadness and sorrow, the issue still keeps coming. So we have to think issues with family and people who are related to us by blood. They run very deep. Sometimes the seeds of conflict were sown in our previous birth. The longer ties are, more effort and presence is required from us. What is presence? Presence is our present attention. While it is okay to look at the past for getting the accurate picture, but it is in the present we make the change. If we continue to focus on finding solution in the present, solutions will be presented to us. If we wish or if we keep wishing total peace and freedom and keep on making effort, it will be granted to us. But we have to keep making efforts with sincerity. Sometimes the other person may or may not be involved. The dealing is always our own. It may or may not involve the other person. But most of the dealing we do within and keep our behavior accurate with the other person. So we keep shifting trust and faith to our higher self and not to the false gods such as money or power or other human influences. In honesty, we keep looking for a pattern, a mental pattern we are operating from. Sometimes we feel it is happening to us repeatedly. Similar situation but with different people. Then somewhere we have to change our pattern. Suppose we have been acting with anger. We are not careful with using the right word. Then we have to practice that. And we keep surrendering to our higher self. We trust the guidance from our higher self and whatever information or guidance higher self provides, and not manipulate our prayers as per our wishes. We have to know the difference between prayers and wishes. We do not make our prayers our wishes. In prayer we surrender and become open to guidance from the higher self. The guidance may or may not come according to our wishes. We keep wishing for total peace, love and happiness. We act on divine guidance, whatever it is. We focus on learning the underlying lesson. We apologize, if not to the person, to the universe, and I say, I sincerely apologize for whatever happened. The mistake was mine or not, but I apologize. Please guide me and relieve me of my suffering. Then in alertness, we see what comes, what message we get through telepathy or intuition, and then we act. and fulfill whatever is required of us. We come out of our personality and we recognize us and the other person involved as human beings and not as personalities. We do not label, judge or tag anyone with a mistake because our focus is in resolution, not continuing it. We cease seeing the episode as a mistake, but see it as a learning experience that was needed for our evolution and our growth. In true understanding, each episode, each situation, every person is involving us, we are being evolved. And through such incidents, which we call as spiritual initiations, we ascend higher into higher dimensions. It is simply a journey, a play of consciousness. If we wait with tolerance and patience, and if that is the guidance we are receiving, then we do it, and we gladly do it. The last question now, which we are coming to the end of this talk. How long will it take me to reach a level of being completely at peace and return to love? It depends on how much committed you are. It does take time. From months to years, it does take time. In our learning, we raise our vibrations and rise. And that is important. Gradually, we emotionally develop ourselves and we become stronger. Emotions are same as our muscles. The more we pay attention to them, the more we develop them and become stronger. We acquire powers of intuitions and insights. We become creative at a higher level. We start developing visions. We develop hope, trust, and stability within ourselves. And then we can offer it to others. These are not small accomplishments. These energies are great accomplishments when you develop them through practice in you. Then you are vibrating at higher levels. You become compassionate towards all, including others, including those who have presumably harmed you. You rise above them. And then you realize your oneness. Sometimes we are required to release and let go the lower in order to perceive and gain the higher. We wait and see what divine has got in store for us. Last, what is soul? Soul is an energetic being. At soul level, we are all energies. We are one energetic androgynous being. A part of us is masculine and the part of us is feminine. Higher we go, we realize that we belong to group souls. Still higher we go, we realize that we are all together as one source energy. All is energy. Same energy gets manifested in different forms. The person in front of us is just playing his role or her role. Basically, he or she is nothing but an aspect of ourselves. Money, peace, joy, anger are all manifestations of the same energy. And then higher we go, we realize and laugh. If I want peace and freedom, and she or he wants money or something else, or sex or power, it's the same thing. You are wanting peace and freedom, which are higher expressions. The other person is wanting money, sex, power, or whatever else, or material goods. It's the same thing. So you laugh and say, let's both have what we desire more at this moment. It's just a matter of where the soul is residing in space and time. According to our vibrations and dimensions we reside in, we wish to experience having a particular thing or particular experiences or particular energies. And at that time, universe grants us whatever we desire. So above dialogue happens naturally within you when you realize your own identification as a soul, as an energetic being, and then all things fall into place. But it takes time, your continuation, self-effort, participation, and patience. Sometimes endurance as well. True forgiveness and forget. In true forgiveness, you forget. You will simply forget the issue ever existed in your memory. It will never come back in your awareness. The seeds are destroyed and burnt. With your self-effort, you have balanced your energies underneath. And you have enjoyed the freedom. It is a clean state. How wonderful it is. Congratulate yourself for doing self-work, for taking self-responsibility. And then you realize and rejoice. You only played a game of consciousness. You simply forget and move on. In freedom and joy. This is the end of part 2 of our 2-part series of dealing with issues of loyalty, trust, and betrayals. A lot of guidance has been provided. Please take time to listen to it again and again, and then follow what resonates with you. Your participation and action is what going to change your situation. Thanks for listening. Lots of love and light to you.